Alrighty.
All right, so my name's Ida Farhat, and this is Conscious Heart Solutions. My guest is Randy Kaiser. I'm excited to have him. And Randy, if you don't mind, share a little bit about yourself and your background and whatever you'd like for our audience to know about you and what has brought you where you're at today and doing the humanitarian work that you're doing.
Perfect. Hi, Ida. Nice to meet you. Finally, we've been Facebook friends for a while, but there I'm going to bring a little light with me. I always like to do that over my shoulder or over my hat or something. It's just beautiful. We got a sunny wall-to-wall blue sky up here in Calgary, Alberta today. 23 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in American, but it's a warm day, beautiful fall day. So
It looks
I'm
beautiful.
yeah, it's stunning. So I guess I'll just give you a quick rundown. I was a rancher for 30 years. Uh, Inherited a little bit of land from my father when he passed away when I was very young. And then I just dove into it and I made my way through the industry into the purebred cattle business and had a successful career, no doubt. Went into the idea of expanding what we had developed, a small pasture to plate beef marketing program of natural products. And we did that for about 12, 15 years, I guess. It's still going, but it's sold to another company. And in the middle of that, I saw the potential for a macrocosm. So kick this up to an international level of producing product on a natural level and then exporting it overseas and exporting it to US, whatever. So we were in capitalist mode, but at the same time had what I feel was a very conscious product. In that process, I took a lot of chances, typical capitalist, and I got behind. And the bank stepped in and basically took everything I had after building a fairly substantial asset base. And it was tough at first, don't get me wrong, but towards the tail end of my cattle career, I started to look at, things like our birth certificate bond and then the idea of how money is basically manifested, right? So so the process of losing the property went to court, and I didn't take a lawyer with me or anything. I just stood as a sovereign man, I'd call myself. I don't attach myself to any group or whatever, but I like to learn and I like to understand as I go through my trials and tribulations and my glory, like it's just my story, my universe. So I'm just going to dive into it every time. And I'm pretty happy now and I'm smiling and talking this way because I made it through. But don't get me wrong, there were some tough times. My karma was pretty deep and I had a rough couple of years, but now it's just been such a glorious event to have participated in all that and learned the every aspect of banking from private wealth of ancient families via what they call collateral accounts. I refer to them as heritage accounts. I've been into the back streets of Jakarta and Mindanao province of the Philippines, down where Rodi Duterte lives in Davao City, and through some pretty challenging places for many people. And I'm just a happy-go-lucky kind of guy, so I walk around with a big smile on my face, and people with their guns just drop them and say, "What the hell do you want?" And I've made my way through this in a very faithful manner, trusting in God and loving God, and God being whatever you want to call it. But I feel it's just the goodness in everyone and everything every day, and it is the original source and the source energy that's still here for us, within us, that we just have to tap into and walk with it and take our path and love every minute of it and just go on from there. So that's kind of a brief history, and I'll go into some more details with you, Ida, but your turn, my dear.
Well, I mean, I'm just thinking about, there's so many farmers that have lost their livelihood to banking, and I think it's unfortunate. Um, Hopefully, those things are change. I mean, I trust that those things are changing. I believe President Trump is doing amazing things, and I don't want to really get into too much of political because I don't know enough. I just know intuitively that he's the man to do the job, and he's doing a great one. And I I think that a lot of people are depending on outside sources to really understand what's happening with the awakening. And yes, we can look outside of ourselves and see some of these anomalies that are taking place on the planet, um, all over the world. You know, people are standing up, coming together, doing protesting and so forth and so on. um, but I don't think a lot of people really understand when it comes to like birth bond, how we are where we're at, how to remove themselves from that fictional place. Even I mean, as much as research as I've done, I am far from informed enough to really take that step. And what are those steps to move from banking into a sovereign way of living? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? Because I know you
Sure.
said a lot, and I could probably really like start asking questions about the places you traveled and how synchronicity showed up in your life to take you to those places. And I believe that everything is divine and perfect. And these things happen, especially when we step up in our divine mission. I believe that we're guided and that the universe will guide us to meet the people like I am meeting you today, and I'm super excited about that because I know I still have a whole lot of learning. Um, and so, anyways, go ahead. What were you going
Well,
to say?
sure, Ida. So we'll sum that up. Like, I'm sure you're going to get more guests as you go along that are going to have a better, clearer uh, um, definition, I guess you'd call it, of the birth certificate and what happened at that government level. But I'm a pretty big picture guy, and I think in terms of simplicity. Okay, like my favorite little saying is, I couldn't give a fig for the simplicity on the near side of complexity, but I give my left nut for the simplicity on the far side of complexity. And excuse my language, because every once in a while I drop something like that. I'll try to not use f-bombs
You're
on this.
fine. You're fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. But it's just bringing people into a comfortable zone, and oftentimes it takes a fucking wake up call to get comfortable. So then it's like, oh God, this guy isn't some preacher, and he's not gonna start in on talking about God from a biblical Bible thumping standpoint, but yet he's got some common sense that he's bringing, and that's what I want to do with everyone. So my journey was definitely individual, and everyone is. And we've got 7+ billion paths to God going on out here. Like we're all so unique and individual. So what is the one commonality that we have? It's love. It's God. It's that source energy that lies in every single one of us. And I don't care if you're the, lizard queen, or, people who have all kinds of left brain, you know, dogma that they, or not dogma, left brain ideas that they bring into these bad people and stuff like that. But we're all just humans. And organization of humans, yes, there's some people that tried to do some pretty nefarious things. Nobody was able to control it. They tried to manipulate and exploit society, and manipulate and exploit mankind. And here's a pretty good example of how they did it right over there. You can see that's a school. Okay. And
Wow.
what we are as human beings is we're schooled. Okay, we're programmed. We're told a vision by a television. We're indoctrinated, whatever language you want to use. As children, as simple little children, we are ultimate creators. And then we become these adults, so called. And I mean, I learned my first trip over to the Philippines, I ran into poverty for the first time at that level. Like there's definitely some, poor people in Canada and places that are worse than others. But when I got up the first morning off of a flight, I'm going to tell this story quick. I'll try not to linger too
No,
long on my
please
story.
do, because I think
Yeah.
people need to be aware that, just very quickly, and then I'll let you continue. But yes, we have a lot here in America and Canada and other, Australia, different countries, the UK, whatever. But I don't think people really get like the way what we would call poverty here in America. People are living like kings and queens comparison to some of these other countries. And I don't take for 1 second for granted what I'm blessed with, which is, you know, my heart more than anything. But I do have a roof over my head. I have a vehicle. I have, I'm connecting with amazing people all across the planet. And uh, those are the people that I think about, are these countries that have not even been remotely given the opportunities, as far as I'm concerned, that we here in America have. And that's one thing that we need to stand up for. Those people, um, the people that are crying about, President Trump and all the things that are going on, they don't really understand what he's doing and the amazing, work he's doing. But anyways, go ahead.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, it's so, yeah, bang on, Ida. We don't understand until we travel. Like we can look at television and we can watch, a program that talks about giving relief to African children or whatever. But until you experience it, it's different. And my first trips over to Asia and especially China were as a capitalist. I was looking for funding. I was looking for, or not funding, I was looking for investment at that time. And funding being a different story, and I'll get into it later. But the idea of investment. So when I first dropped into Manila, it was dark, and the next morning I came out of my hotel room, and I wasn't staying in Makati City, which is the high end area. It was a kind of a middle of the ground area of the city, not near the poverty yet though. Okay, and even in that middle of the ground city, I walked out onto the street the next morning to give myself a stretch and look around, and this little girl got up off the concrete, off of a piece of cardboard where she spent the night. Okay, dirty, tangled hair, dirty little dress, face was dirty, and I looked at her and I just stopped in my tracks. It was like, what the fuck is this? And she held her little hand out, and I just sat down with her and cried, and
Mm.
it was like, what? Like, how could this be? Like this part of the city where there's business going on, and there was, you know sure, it's not like, anything like Canada or the city I live in, but it was still functioning, right? And here this little girl gets up off of her bed off the concrete. Are you kidding me? So it changed my life. Like that moment was when I said, okay, you know, I've got enough sense and I've got enough connections, and I've already been, working in the banking industry to a certain extent, that I just said to myself, you're going to do this for humanity. You're going to do this for all. You're not going to do this for a project, even though you think in your mind it's a good project. So get fucking busy, Kaiser. And from that day forward, that was my mission, I guess you call it. So, a lot of people will come to me asking about funding because I'm in that position. Well, we've got a network set up already all over Southeast Asia, Africa, somewhat in South America, where a lot of this poverty and real poverty exists. So I won't be able to just help average citizens for a while, okay? Or average people. I shouldn't use that language. I don't like any of that corporate language, but
Right.
average people. So, bear with us. Let's put it that way. We've got an established network, and we've got a company, a nonprofit organization, and a common law pure trust all set up in the two jurisdictions of legal and common law, ready to go to fund projects. And that's where we're moving into quickly. So, a lot of what I've said now, and what, if people want background, we'll direct them to my YouTube channel where I've got dozens of interviews and just my own stuff that I do on an almost daily basis to do more research if they want. But I think for today, you brought up the name and the word Trump, and I'd like to talk a little bit about that, Ida, because it's your kind of stomping ground, I'm going to call it. I've followed you on Facebook, and I believe a lot of what you're doing is wonderful, sharing the news about, Donald Trump and the Trump administration, which are, in my mind, the second word there, Trump administration, is just as much important to our minds as the word and the name Donald Trump,
Right.
because it is trumping the old government level that has been so deceptive and that has been so deceitful and illusory. And in fact, the whole government legal system is that way. Okay, so he's doing his best to bring some redemption, to redeem some of that past ridiculousness, that insanity, and I cheer Trump on. Do I work in that level of government? No, I don't function in the legal jurisdiction very much at all. I'm a sovereign human being, and I learned that both in the paper sense, if you want to call it that, in the common law sense, and as an individual. And that's where it's most important, understanding our sovereignty from our own space, from our own consciousness. And your show being about consciousness, that's very important, because this journey is about individual consciousness. However, we've gotten to this stage now, Ida, where consciousness got ahead of the individual. Okay, God got ahead of us, and God has always been ahead of us. But right now we're in a place where there is a collective ascension that's already happened. It's affected every single one of us, and the more that we understand that and surrender to it, the easier this whole process is on us. I speak nothing about what's going on in that illusory insanity world of this hoax that we're going through. I don't even want to touch it, because I give 1 ounce of energy to it, and it continues. It's just like, negative publicity. It's just that ridiculous notion. Do I run people down for doing it? No. Every one of us has a position, has a role to play in this ascension. So those who are exposing to the right people. My job is to expose the illusion, the utter illusion of debt, and the simplicity of banking at this level at the highest level, way above anything that's been indoctrinated into our heads. Okay, so people that listen to me are going to have to forget everything they know about banking and money, everything, because we've been driven. It's been driven into our minds, this idea of debt, okay, which is just a complete, utter, insane illusion. Who in the hell are we in debt to? Okay,
Right.
It's just that simple.
Right. Well, that's why I asked you about, when we talked prior to starting our recording, about the esoteric side of it and how debt is passed down through generations, through our DNA. I've heard many philosophies and different thoughts of what that really means. Having, I had my awakening in 2011, Randy, and I had a spontaneous Kundalini activation, and I went through a real tough, dark night of the soul. I had to have a look at some very dark aspects about myself. Now, I've come out of that, and I've healed, and I've done a lot of shadow work, and my whole life is completely different now. But, I'm the youngest of 12 kids, and my mother worked her whole life to raise 12 children, being on her feet as a waitress. I left school in 6th grade, was the last grade I completed. I'm not going to make this about me because I'm interviewing you, but just to give you a little bit of an understanding, I haven't been so indoctrinated with the educational side of things. I kind of, you know, I've had to look after myself since I was a child because of the environment that I grew up in and so forth. But I definitely see life in a whole new way now. And I always knew that there was something very different about me ever since I was a little girl, but I didn't really understand what that was, right? And I've always wanted to help people, and I have done that throughout my life. I've been doing humanitarian work my whole life, if you want to call it that, if you give it a label, which I don't even like, just being a loving, kind, compassionate person, right? Helping somebody if you see that they need help and you're able to do it. I think that the service to self mentality and entitlement is a big issue still. I hate to say that. Uh, I mean, so, um, but I brought that up to say, you brought up about the educational system. I mean, I have family members, everybody's worked hard in my family to have the things that they have, but they've always looked at me like, what's wrong with you? And I've always kind of been the outcast and the black sheep, and I see things, intuitively know things without any, and then they want prove it to me kind of thing. And I'm at the point where I just, um, I want to see things shift on this planet desperately. I have a huge heart like you, and I've watched so many of your videos, just the short clips, just it inspires me to want to do better. And I thank you for that. Randy, I definitely feel like we are right at the precipice of big monumental changes on this planet. Can I ask you this? What do you think about Jasara, Nasara, the RV? Where is this funding going to come from to move into these positions like what you're already doing? You've already done all the work to set up a nonprofit organization to get people the help that they need. Like, how does one begin to do that? Where's the funding coming from? And, you know, just a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
Sure, no problem, Ida. But first, I want to recognize your story and thank you for that. And I'm sure the people that are going to watch this video are just as thankful, because you are a glorious soul, a bright light, and I've seen it just from your posts. And now you're coming out here on YouTube, and I want to congratulate you. Like I encourage so many people to do that, because it's our eyes, it's our presence, it's our now moment that people need to see, our authenticity.
Right.
And you've got it. And what I'm saying is fine, and I'm going to answer a few more questions for you and all that kind of stuff, and we'll get together again if you like. But this is as much for you as it is for me. We need you as much as you need me or us. Okay, those of us who are embedded now into this banking world and this structure of the quantum funding system, which I'll talk about now. We need you, and that's the way that the people that have approached me talk to me. Okay, it's not a pyramid anymore. It's the trees and the roots. Okay, it's the roots of the tree that have to expand for the tree to grow taller and for the leaves to come out. Like, that's the kind of language that we use. And when I say we, now I'm going to talk about the keepers, okay? The keepers of funds, rather than owners of accounts or any kind of language like that. These humans that have been sitting on, growing values of digits in bank accounts for, dozens, if not, for decades. Let's just leave it at decades, okay? Because our current banking structure is, a lot of it is based on 1944, post-World War II, when we shifted a lot of things around, okay? Prior to that, there was still, lending based on limited amounts of gold, fractional reserve lending, as they call it, and stuff like that, but not to the extent of the way it started to happen after post-World War II. And part of the reason for that was there was a bunch of pretty conscious humans that put that together, okay? They were thinking, look at, you know, 2 world wars, and, you know, what are we fighting over? We're fighting over assets and land, and we need to stop that, you know? So they created this structure that is, you know, has had some benevolence to it. Okay, there was, like, you look around your country and my country, and you'll see, you know, there's a lot of beauty, there's a lot of infrastructure that's wonderful, and in spite of the people being debt slaves, they've still moved ahead a lot faster and farther than that child in the Philippines or the people in Africa. So, you know, that's what I mean by there was some benevolence to begin this round of humanity as far as the monetary system. So I don't delve on the good guy bad guy story that much, you know? Like, I try to stay away from it, even though I blast out once in a while, but I try to dig and find the good in it. So when that started, then there was people that started to organize, okay? And especially at this so-called government level. And, you know, at that level, there was some pretty nefarious things going on, as you know, from, you know, you're supporting Trump, you obviously know that he's cleaning a mess of a swamp, right? And, you know, the same thing is in every government in the world. Some are just better at hiding it than others. You know, there's some outright tyranny dictatorships in Africa that are horrible. They just outright kill people and slaughter people still. So, you know, we've got to be aware that, you know, it's human organization that needs a major shift. And like you said, the cabal is right here. It's inside of each of us as much as it's on the outside.
I agree, 100%. I agree. I agree. Every I agree. It definitely it starts within. And yeah, you want to call it the cabal. There's I mean, I could go to many different topics. I won't go there because I really wanted to try to keep it. I know my mind's kind of all over the place in responding to you. There's a lot of things that I could speak to, but I won't. But there are a lot of things happening behind the scenes that I'm aware of, people that I'm in contact with. I know great things are happening. And so, Randy, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to do this show with me. It's my first one, right? I need to probably maybe get a little bit more organized, but I didn't want to really keep it too stiff. I wanted it to be a relaxed conversation where we can get your information out. People can find you, Randall Kaiser, on YouTube, Facebook. I highly recommend people to watch your videos, become informed, do their own research, you know, and definitely when I'm a little bit more structured and have things in place, I definitely want to have you come back. Especially, I feel like the month of October, like this month is huge, okay? In a big, big way. And I'm not going to go in, you know, I just intuitively, I feel it. I feel it. I'm very sensitive to energies. I get, you know, I'm in contact with people all over the planet or in a lot of places on the planet, not all over, but, and there are some people that I find, you know, have some information, but not all the information. I don't think anybody has all of it. We come together, we do our best to bring useful, informative, valuable information so that people can do their own research, and most importantly, go within, ask yourself, what is it that you want in this life? How do you want to contribute? You know, and what value do you have to offer? Because we all have something. We're all valuable, we're all important, and we all can get our hands in the dirt. I'm ready. I don't care what it is. I want to make sure people have homes, clean water, food, basic, and then from that place, we can move into co-creating even more spectacular things. I mean, yeah, it's exciting. You know, I said to somebody, I was like, we've been talking about the same stuff since 2012, like the same stuff, like what you were talking about the Queen and, you know, the reptilians and the Pleiadians and I mean, I could go on and on and on. Okay, and that's all well and good. But what are we doing here on the ground? Because we are here. What are we doing from this day forward to make a difference? However we can. I can't do anything about the galactics. You know what I mean? I can't, right? I do my own traveling when I do. I'm fully aware of who I am, what I am, so forth. But I'm ready to get my hands in the dirt now, here.
Beautiful. I love
Yeah.
that.
That, that's where my heart's at. And I live in a community, I live in an apartment, everybody knows Miss Ida. The kids know me, they know they're safe, they know if they need anything. I have elderly people that live in my complex. They all know I have no problem if they need a ride to the store, they need me to pick up something, take them to the doctors, whatever small act I can do, because that's the only place I'm at, that what I can offer for now. But I am definitely ready to put some smiles on people's faces and relieve them of some of the stress of, debt. Because yeah.
Well, you definitely are putting a smile on my face, and I smile a lot, but it's been the last couple minutes has been nothing but. You're just a bright light, Ida, and I love it.
Randy, you're
So yeah,
amazing. You're amazing. It goes both ways. I appreciate you. And I'm going to be a little bit better structured and prepared for the next, I need to do a little bit. I just don't know a lot about banking. I try to learn from you. I think internally, like I get it, but I don't, like when I try to, it just doesn't register. But that's okay. It'll happen when it's supposed to.
of course. And
Yeah.
just, if anything, let me kind of tidy it up towards the end here. We'll shut it off pretty quick, but you know, bringing the idea of simplicity in, Ida, will help. And just saying to yourself, monetary debt is an illusion, like it, and that'll help, because the rest of it is, indoctrination at so many various levels, right? So to get into government or high level banking right now, it's, we don't need to go there. But since it's October 1st, and this is the full moon, it's just passing, and it's going to
Yes,
pass
that's
me.
right. Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And
Yeah.
it's going to pass me in a couple hours. If you look out your window, you probably already see it. And and we know one thing is that organizations, and I'm going to call it covens, okay, groups of people that have some very, playful but also nefarious ideas, gather around this idea of harvesting the loosh, or harvesting what they can get out of people, right? And this is above government levels. Like, governments are pretty low down the top totem pole, to be honest. And I'm not discounting Trump and what he's doing, don't get me wrong, he's got a big job ahead. Like, the government level needed a lot of cleanup, but these organizations of people that have been directing governments, okay, and I'm not just talking about Bilderbergs anymore here either, but behind the scenes of Bilderbergs, there's even more, like, groups of very wealthy people that are bored with life, and they just want to control. They want to manipulate and exploit people, and they enjoy it for some really ridiculous reason. And what I'm suggesting today is that you and I bring our metaphysical into play, okay? To have some fun and take that energy and pretend that we've invaded those dark caves of covens and all those silly uh, characters, and we're in there, and we're pulling back their little hoods over their heads, and we're giving them a kiss on the cheek,
Yeah,
okay? we're
right.
saying we're saying, I love you. You know that God is inside of you and that you can't avoid it. I love you, so smarten up. Come on, join us and be in the light. And I've been doing that all day with some other interviews and stuff too, and my own little stuff that I do. And I want people to think that way, because if we think it's a battle, and if we continue to be warriors, then there'll be a battle and we'll be warriors. But if we come at this from a perspective of love, and a perspective of forgiveness, and a perspective of Jesus Christed light, like, I'm not a Bible thumper, but my God, how can anybody run down the story of Jesus Christ? It's a story of compassion, of love, of forgiveness, of metaphysical healing, of herbs, that kind of stuff. I don't read the Bible, but I learned that stuff anyway. So bring that Christed light. And that's how we will overcome this. And that's what's happening so fast, Ida. That's what's there. And we just need to surrender to it a little bit more.
Yeah.
So you go ahead and say a few more things, or however you want to end this, but I have a little saying that I like to do at the end. So give me a moment for that, just when you're ready to shut it down.
Absolutely. Well, you have all the time you need. Absolutely. And I'm just in the ambiance of your whole, I can feel your energy. I'm very sensitive. So I just want you to know that it's felt, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And I don't understand all of, you're much better educated and understanding things that may, I'm aware, but I'm not educated the way you are, and haven't gotten that far into the whole, what you've already created. And I admire you, and I want to learn. And I agree with you. I've experienced a lot of things, I'll just say. And it was very hard on me. I do believe in the Christ light. I do believe in the Christ consciousness. I am not a religious person. I believe in spirituality and love and kindness and compassion and the goodness of humanity or humankind. And I have always gone straight for the heart with everybody. I'm, I used to say when I was younger, I'm a chapter ahead, not a page, sometimes a book, right? Because I am highly sensitive and feel into things, and I get, thoughts and so forth. So I know, but I used to look past, because everybody, they're either coming from a place of fear or selfishness. We do experience that still. And you're right. We need to just open our hearts up and invite them to join us in moving into harmony, unity, love, wholeness, prosperity for all, whatever that means. That every life is abundant. Our hearts are abundant. There's no reason for anybody to be in lack of anything, but it's a mindset too, right? Because if you've been taught your whole life, to think a certain way, as we know, which a lot of people are, even the most, I used to say I could talk with a street corner hustler or the president of the United States. I can hold those kinds of conversations. I don't see anybody superior or less than me, right? I see people as just who you are. And I'm very fortunate. You mentioned before, I'm half Palestinian and half Irish Scottish. And yeah. And I'm pretty much in the know of my hair, where I come from, my bloodline, so forth and so on. I've never been one to put money before, even before I had my awakening. Like, I always knew I didn't have a healthy relationship with money. I'll just say that. Right. And I was one of those people that money is the root to all evil, and anybody that had it must be evil and that kind of thing. Not really, but kinda, like I had not a resentment or a grudge towards people that were wealthy, but I was always like, why can't you just help people? Like, what are you doing holding on to all that money? For what? What is, and it's really just to have power over others, like you said earlier, and wanting to dominate and control, and, for whatever reason it pleases them. I don't get it, but, anyways, go ahead. What were you?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, nothing. I'm just thinking of what a mirror this is. There's one in the background over your shoulder, and there's also one right in front of my eyes, because that's what we are. We're mirroring each other. That's what brought us together, is that Christed light, that love, that compassion, all of those words that you just used. So yes, we're here for each other, and I can't do what I do without you, and the people that I'm working with can't do what they're doing without us. So we just have to stay together and stay on track in that, you know, you can call us warriors if you like. That language is okay with me, but I'm a warrior of love, you know, if anything. And I just can't stop that. And I'm going to bring love. When I talk to bankers and stuff and I say I love you to them, they don't know what to do sometimes, but they just have to deal with it because I'm not going to stop.
Yeah.
And I've run into such a network of them now that I work with that I know, like you said, October is a huge month. There is going to be prosperity funds coming through, and it's already coming. Like, you know, what Trump is doing with offering money, they call it under the guise of this hoax, right? And I don't even want to use that word, but it's a big hoax. And they're offering money to the individuals. That's the same in Canada. We've been getting relief, as they call it, but it's still stuck in that idea of, well, it's going to add to the government debt. Well, no, don't say that. Don't even think that, because
Oh,
there
I
is
don't
no,
think so. Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case at all. I
no.
mean, that isn't the case. I mean, I know that there are, yeah, that's not the case. But people that aren't aware or don't get the, I know that's not the case. I know it in my heart of hearts. So yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
And it's going to keep coming. And I call it quantum funding system. A lot of people want to still use the word financial, and I don't adhere to, you know, I adhere to the good things that I hear from everybody. Okay. But I have my own story. It's an individual thing, and I work with and never against. There's numerous groups that have tried to bring me on board and tie me into their version or their narrative, and I'm like, yeah, I like what you're doing, but no thanks. I'm good. You know, I'm I'm so comfortable where I'm at and so comfortable with my journey. So I think for today though, Ida, I'm gonna head off, but I'm gonna just leave it with a couple of words that I leave all my videos with, and then you can tidy it up at the end and say your thing. And so with peace, harmony, love, abundance, and freedom for everyone and everything, every day on my mind, abundance, sovereignty, health, and euphoria. Don't forget to have fun and enjoy yourself. I love you.
I love you too, Randy. And we'll leave it just at that. That's beautiful. I appreciate it. I hear you say that on your other videos, and it always puts a big smile on my heart. So we'll leave it at that. Thank you for coming on and sharing this conversation, this space, this time with me. I appreciate you. And yes, we'll connect again. Yep.
Of course.
You
Thank
have
you
a
very much.
super, super fabulous evening. Thank you.
I love you. Bye.
I love
There,
you.
we'll bring in that bright light one more time.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you
See
so
ya.
much, Randy. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.